I'm Ben Paskewitz, CEO of NTS Tire Supply, and today I'm here with James Crouch, the National Segment Manager for Agriculture Tires for Alliance. And today we're going to talk about, you guessed it, tractor tires, specifically the Alliance lineup. And we're going to talk about how it can help increase profits on the farm. That's what we care about. And we're going to have a little fun along the way. All right, James, so we're going to kick this off with a game of farm tire trivia.
Okay.
And if you answer all three questions correctly, then you can officially claim the title of Lug Legend.
I'll try it.
All right, so which tractor manufacturer was the first to make rubber tires standard from the factory?
Let's go with International Harvester.
Close, it was Ellis Chalmers. Do duals double the load carrying capacity of a tire setup?
Yes.
Not quite.
Oh, no, sorry, it's 12%. Yeah, sorry. 88%.
Yeah.
88% rule.
Yep, that's good. And last question is, how much does the air pressure drop in a farm tire for every 10-degree drop in temperature?
Roughly 1 degree, 1 PSI.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
1.5 out of 3.
Yeah.
Works for me.
All right, I'll take it.
So tell us a little, what's your background in ag tires, and how did you get involved in the farm tire industry?
So I started in ag tires. I've been in ag tires my whole professional career. Started in 2010, straight out of college. I grew up on a small farm in South Carolina. Worked at a John Deere dealership for 8 years, just turning wrenches. Spent roughly 10 years with another manufacturer, then came over to Alliance back in 2017. Just never got out of it. I know, once you get into the tire business, you can't seem to get out.
Yeah, that's good. Once you have that, build up that knowledge, you want to use it.
It's a very, and especially just being in specifically ag tires, it's a very unique knowledge set that it's hard to find, it's hard to develop. And once you understand it, it makes it a lot more fun. So a lot of what I do a lot of training stuff, things we're doing to try to train our dealers and everything like that. It's fun for me.
Yeah, that's interesting, because in the ag side, that's what we find too, even for hiring sales reps. We would rather hire somebody that's got the farming background and then train them on tires. You kind of need that background in agriculture.
That's exactly why I was hired for the first company I worked for. Was they were looking for somebody, my first territory was Iowa, and they were looking for somebody that they could train tires, but that knew what a tractor was. And I just kind of filled that spot. So.
Very good. So what would describe your current role at Alliance?
So I'm the product manager for agriculture. So I'm basically the liaison between the end user, the farmers in North America, and our corporate headquarters. Like we were talking about earlier, it's like I've got a crystal ball that I'm looking at all the time, trying to figure out what the demand is going to be in the future. So both trying to promote and sell what we have today, trying to support our sales reps, our end users, our OEMs, but at the same time working with our head office to make sure we get the right tires we need at the right price, fitting checking the right boxes at the right time, and still being a good steward of the company's money at the same time. So making sure that we're doing things that not only are good for our end users, because that's where it has to start, but is also good for the company at the end of the day. And
do you work with the sales teams as well, training them on the product knowledge?
I do, yeah. I'm pretty heavily in the training section. We don't have a formal training department at Alliance. We're just pretty lean and mean. So a lot of the product managers, myself included, we do a lot of in-field training with whether it's at the dealer level, doing retail dealer training, or end users, or internal sales force.
Yeah, interesting. So as the segment manager, essentially you're like the CEO or overseeing the whole lineup of agriculture tires in this country. Pretty much.
As the product manager, especially in a company as nimble as Alliance is, you really do have your fingers in everything, whether it's pricing, forecasting, new product development, sales, marketing, everything.
One thing I just wanted to kind of go over is what we call our right tire system concept at NTS. Basically, we work with farmers to make sure that every piece of equipment on their farm has the right tire system. So whether it's VF tires, whether it's wider or narrow, or whatever that setup is, it's going to optimize their equipment performance. But also the main thing we're really looking at is how can we reduce that soil compaction in the field, because that's what's going to drive up profits on the farm. I think Alliance has something, what you call the whole farm concept. And I feel like that's similar, but maybe you could describe what that is.
Yeah, so the whole farm concept, this is something that goes back to about 2018. Our CEO was really challenging us to look at our portfolio and figure out kind of where we wanted to be in the grand scheme of things. We have a huge product offer, huge, but just to mindlessly add sizes left and right, it's just a mess. It creates chaos for our dealers, creates chaos for us. So we really wanted to kind of channel our energy a little bit and understand where we wanted the product line to go. And when we looked at the farm, just specifically the North American farm, we realized that the best thing we can do as a tire company is to help a farmer reduce soil compaction. That's our best lever for the farmer to help them increase their profits, be more sustainable at the end of the day, and try to feed everybody, right? That's the ultimate goal. So the whole farm concept is really just us being able to wrap our arms around that idea that we want to offer something for lower soil compaction for every single piece of equipment on the farm. So whether it's the tractor, I know the tractors always get a lot of attention because they're the big cool things, right? I mean, everybody has a VF line for tractors now. They've been out for a long time, but not everybody has a VF line for a manure tanker or an implement. And that's really where our whole farm concept came in. We started looking and identifying different pieces of equipment on the farm where we didn't have that low pressure solution. Because at the end of the day, like you talked about, if the tractor's there and you sell the tractor and you got the guy set up on a with dual 480/50 VFs or whatever, you got the tractor floating, right? But they're pulling a chisel behind it and they're running old semi tires on it at 90 psi. Like they're kind of hurting themselves. They're not really getting the full benefit. So we wanted to be able to provide that full benefit by offering something for everything. And we're there. We're at just over 200 SKUs right now. Multiple load indexes. Sometimes it's not 200 independent sizes, but 200 different options for VF tires in our portfolio, which is the best in the industry. We're almost double the next competitor right now. And we're not going to slow down with it. The majority of the new products that I put into the system that I'm working on bringing out over the next 12 months, 2 years, 3 years are VF. And we're looking beyond that. We're trying to really figure out how to reduce compaction as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, that's exciting for us because similar VF tires, that's where we see the future. If we can get lower air pressure on every piece of equipment, that can only help.
Yep.
We actually did a study in 2023. We worked with Ag Revival.
Seen it.
That was that sprayer study.
Yep.
That gave us a lot of insight, but we'll put a link in the description here. It showed the importance of achieving the lowest air pressure possible in the field. And during the test, we ran a sprayer across the ground. We ran it at 35 PSI and 17 PSI. And then where the track was, we did a simulated test of getting 3 inches of rain. So stick a piece of PVC pipe in the ground and then put a bucket of water in there and then just watch how long it takes the soil to absorb it because that's telling you the soil compaction. And at 35 PSI, it was about 75% of the water was still in the high pressure one, where there's only about 30% left in the low pressure. And that was after 1 hour.
Oh, well.
And it definitely illustrates how harmful that soil compaction can be to the soil.
Sure.
And it carries over year too.
Yeah.
So anyway, that brings us back to your whole farm concept and then also kind of with NTS's right tire system. So it's important to keep the tire pressure on the farm's largest machine especially as low as possible in the field and prevent that yield robbing soil compaction. And like we talked about earlier, that's how you can increase yields.
Yep.
So we're going to put another link in the video description on our 3-year planting study. And that's another one we did with Ag Revival. Ag Revival has been a great partner to work with because they're totally independent and they don't care about one brand tire over another.
Yeah.
But yeah, what we found in the planter study is that just by dropping that air pressure down, it increased the yield by 4 bushels an acre, which if you do that times a lot of acres.
It adds up quick.
Yeah. All right, so before we look at the Alliance tires, I'm going to steer you towards another game, and it's going to be called Between Two Tires.
Okay.
And so let's say you're a Midwestern farmer, and you need to buy a new set of tires on your planting tractor.
Okay.
All right, and I'm going to give you 2 options of tires, and then you're going to choose one or the other, but neither of them are going to be Alliance.
Okay.
For the first one.
All right.
So you can choose from a row crop setup. So it's going to be either 23-degree Firestone or Goodyear LSWs, the big wide tires.
If that was my only choice, I would go with the Firestone. They've been a mainstay in the market for a very long time for a very good reason. They make good tires. I'm not going to tell you that a Firestone's a poor product. It's a very good product. And as far as on the front wheel assist tractor especially, that 23-degree tread bar really does a pretty good job on the rear. For just straight pulling, especially in this area where you really don't have any hills and where it's really flat. If I was in an area where there was a little more hill, I would lean more toward maybe the LSW just because of the tread design. The 23-degree really doesn't hold up too well on any kind of incline. But yeah, I'd probably go with the Firestone.
And that's primarily because of the performance of the tire you're talking, right?
Because of the performance of the tire and just my experience with the tires over time. I've seen Firestone tires really last. They really hold up.
Yeah, it's interesting. So now if you were just to pick any tire in the market, for that same scenario, what one would you recommend?
If it's going on a planter tractor and we're talking about trying to reduce compaction, then our 354, the Alliance 354, that's our VF row crop line. So you would be able to get your pressures down to around 12 PSI on the low end. I don't know what kind of tractor we're talking about here. We've got front and rear combinations for just about everything out there. So whether you're looking at 380s, 420s, 480s on the fronts, we've got an option for you. And those tires hold up really well. They're built with stubble resistant rubber compounds, especially for around here. Stalks aren't getting any softer, and they're steel belted just for added durability over time. So they do really well. I've seen them perform great.
All right, so back to products. If we look at some of the tires in your Alliance lineup, if we start with the Alliance AgriFlex Plus 372, when we talk about tires that make your farm money, I guess this would be one of those, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, any AgriFlex Plus is going to be VF. The 372 is kind of our high volume line. So it started initially for like European singles, where they're running singles in Europe, really dropping the pressures down. But we've got a 372 for pretty much maybe like a 540 section wide up to now a 1250. So I mean, we have a huge product offer, the 372, primarily for four-wheel drives, or anybody that's looking to do like a flotation tire setup on like a frontal assist if you want to go wide there, if you want to go 710s, 800s. Within the 372 pattern, we also have all the harvester sizes as well. So again, all VF tires trying to get our pressure down. It's an extremely aggressive 45-degree tread bar, and it just digs. The traction's fantastic and flotation's great.
So if we go to the 377, we've been talking about how important it is to have larger tires on the big heavy equipment. It's great if a farmer has his planting setup optimized with VF, but we also have to make sure that all the machines on the farm have as big of a footprint as possible, which you talked about with your whole farm concept. For like combines and grain carts, is that the 377, is that the one you'd recommend for that, or what's your?
377 is it's a relatively new product line for us, and it's doing really well. They're R1s, so they're a little bit shallower than what you would see with like a 372, which is a super deep tire. But we do that intentionally because the first couple sizes we came out with in the 377 were actually for irrigators and floaters. So, and they need an R1. You don't really want to put an R1W there. You can if you're in a pinch, but it's probably not gonna survive its whole life. It's just a lot of wear and tear on a really deep tread bar. It's really tough on the casing. So that R1 or R1S, where we have the really thick, shallower tread bar, it runs great. Because to your point, and this goes back to the whole farm concept, everything that touches the farm has to be low pressure to really get the benefits of it, to get the full benefits of it. So sometimes that may be a piece of equipment that the farmer doesn't even own, right? I mean, if you're a farmer and you're contracting out your pre-emergent application stuff for your dry fertilizer in the spring, you got a irrigator coming in, those things are incredibly heavy. They use huge tires. They can really damage end rows, things like that. But with the 377, we're able to get that same benefit of dropping 40% of the pressure out of the tire and still carrying the load for that application. And now we've expanded it to like high clearance sprayers as well. So going back again, doing pre-emergent applications, any kind of fertilizer stuff in the spring, we like that 377 VF. It really drops your pressure down, but at the same time, it can carry an enormous load, which is all that chemical application stuff now.
Yeah, okay. So the higher load is the main difference between the 377 and that 372?
The biggest difference between the 377 and the 372 is the tread design itself. So the 377 is going to be the R1, primarily if you got people that are on the road more than they're off of it. So think about sprayers going from field to field, irrigators doing the same thing. Then 372 is your super deep R1W. Think of big tractors and harvesters.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah. You mentioned that the deeper tread can be hard on the casing. That caught my attention. Mm-hmm. Maybe you could open that up a little bit. Right.
If you're on the road a ton and you're super, super heavy like a irrigator, those really deep lugs can kind of punch into the casing and eventually create issues. Which is why we like that R1. And the other reason we do that R1 instead of an R1W is it generates much, much less heat. So the tires only like heat one time. That's when they're cooked the first time. After that, they don't want heat anymore. They're like cookies. They want to be cooked one time and that's it, right? So with the R1, you're able to spread that heat out. It dissipates heat better and it doesn't build up heat nearly as badly as an R1W would at those high speeds and high distances. So with like a high horsepower tractor, if you got a four-wheel drive, it's not going to be on the road for most of the time, not going to be on the road for an extremely long period of time over and over again, like a irrigator will be. So it's just a different design philosophy.
Yeah, okay. Very good. That's helpful. Looking at the 363 and the 550, if we compare these two tires, we got two tires that have tread that look a lot different than your average traction tread. the 363, that way that design is broke up and more blocks in the middle. Is that was designed for sprayers originally, or what was the?
363 was always designed to be a sprayer tire. We have expanded it and we're testing it on some like front wheel assist now. But instead of trying to define the 363 just like I would the 550 into a specific application, I would look and see like what the demand is. So the 363 is a great tire for machines that are on the road a lot. Like the more you're on the road, the better that tire is going to be for you. Because a radial tire, when you're going down the road, the shoulders lift up just a little bit. You want to be able to put as much rubber on the middle of that as you possibly can. Now there's always a give and take. Think about like 3 different parameters you're building a tire. One could be like rod quality, load capacity, and tread life. And no matter which one you pull, you got to give a concession somewhere. Similar with performance. So you got clean out, you have traction, you have roadability. So the 363, it's a fantastic tire for roading, but there is a little bit of a concession when it comes to like wet traction. But with a sprayer, it's normally not that big of an issue for like, you really don't want to get out there when it's too soupy unless you absolutely have to. We've heard no issues from the 363 when it comes to traction. It does just fine, and it gives you everything you need on the road. The 550 was built a little bit more as, it's actually called the 550 multi-use. So it is in a huge variety of sizes, anywhere from a 10-16.5 skid steer all the way up to a 7-10-70-42 four-wheel drive tire. Again, if you look at the application, if they're heavy on the road in really rough materials and things like that, the 550 is a home run. We've had it on everything from scraper tractors to skid steers.
We've sold a lot of the Alliance 550 for municipalities. They love it because it's great for mowing ditches, because it's got the traction you need to get out of a ditch, but it doesn't tear up because it doesn't have the tread bars that tear up this grass. But then in the winter, they can use it for pushing snow because it's got enough sipes in it that it actually works really well for a snow tire.
That's the cool thing about the 550. The 550, it looks like a snow tire. Like it looks like some of the other common snow tires you see, but it doesn't have the compounding of a snow tire. So snow tires are normally a lot softer rubber compound. So if you're like on the road or something with that thing, or if you're like a municipality, if you're cutting grass with a snow tire, that tire's gonna melt. But the 550 doesn't. It doesn't have that same compounding. So it really gives you the benefit of a snow tire and the benefit of like an R1W all at the same time.
What about the 373? What's the difference there? How does that compare?
So 373 is designed to be primarily for tractors, at least initially. We're going to spread it out to a couple more applications, but think of it as being a kind of a more aggressive version of the 363, built for more off-road traction, but still give you the benefits of the roadability of having like the bar or the broken center lug. So it's relatively new. We've only had it out for about a year. We've sold quite a few in Europe right now, and it's going really well. So the sizes are just now expanding over into some stuff that we'll start to see popping up here. But I'm looking forward to seeing it used on like contractors, things like that, where you're up and down the road a good bit, but you're still in the field a lot, pulling manure tankers and things like that. I think it's a perfectly suited tire for that.
So you could see that used more on even like tractors, you're saying? You mean?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
To do a lot of roading.
Yep. Tractors that use it a lot of roading, like I said, hauling manure, whether it's a four-wheel drive or front-wheel assist, I think it's the perfect tire for something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right. So let's talk about AgriStar 2. That's kind of your core existing line of Alliance tires. We've been talking about VF through most of our interview for a good reason. They're the way of the future. One of the things we like to say at NTS is we want to help drive farming forward.
Yeah.
And that's in our mind that is one of the biggest gaps in precision farming is reducing soil compaction. Mm-hmm. It's something that gets overlooked a lot of times. Is how much impact your tires can actually have. So there's a ton of standard radials out there. AgriStar 2, I think the 2 is a relatively newer version of the
AgriStar 2 came out in 2018, I believe, 18, 19, somewhere like that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's our kind of our new shiny thing. Like you said, the VF thing, that's where our sights are focused. That's our strategic push for reducing compaction, right? Like that's what we see as the next generation in radial tires is going to be VF. We're already there, but the US market at least is still like 90% standard radial. I mean, it's a huge, huge portion of the market still standard radial. We have to satisfy that. So that's where the AgriStar 2 came from. And the idea behind the AgriStar 2 was a bold one, and it was a little bit different. Back in 17, 18, when we started to spec out and figure out what the AgriStar 2 was going to be, or figure out what this like gap in our product offer was and what we were going to fill it with, we started looking at the competition, and this is the time when a lot of the competitors were coming out with tires that were cheaper. Like that was the goal. The goal was not to create a better tire, it was to create a more accessible tire. So, and in order to do that, especially with the domestic manufacturers, you can't just reduce your price to compete with everybody coming in from overseas because there's just not that much room there. So they started removing materials. So they went with cheaper casing materials, belt materials, different bead types, different rubber compounds, different lug designs and all this stuff. So we basically went through and looked at what everybody was doing, and all the corners that they cut, we threw those corners back in, and that's where the AgriStar 2 came from.
It's interesting, because you already had the Farm Pro, which essentially they were probably trying to mirror.
Pretty much. So the Farm Pro is our standard radial. We have a bias and a radial line, but it's really an entry-level radial tire, and it serves a purpose. It has a purpose. I mean, if you got an auger tractor or something like that, go with the Farm Pro. Like, I'm not going to try to upsell you like crazy, but if you got a tractor that's in the field, AgriStar 2 is clearly the way to go. It's going to provide all the traction you need, and like I said, we really wanted to throw everything we could into that tire to give people the opportunity to come to our brand. That's our lever, because farmers aren't nearly as brand loyal as they used to be. Right? Like growing up, we always had one brand of tire on the farm, always. But now people shop. I mean, there's a lot of options out there. I don't think that there's a huge discrepancy in manufacturing quality, no matter where it's coming from. The amount of quality controls, even though our tires are coming out of India, which sometimes gets a bad perception, but I've been to that factory. I've been to at least 3 other brands, like tier 1 brands factories in the world. I would take a tire coming out of our factory over theirs any day of the week. Yeah. The quality controls are phenomenal, but we really wanted to just dump everything we could into that tire to give somebody an opportunity to come over and try it. We even have what we call the 1-year assurance pledge with all AgriStar 2s, where you have a farmer that tries that tire, they put it on their tractor, they can run that tractor for a full year, do whatever they want to with it, and if they don't like the AgriStar 2, within 1 year, we'll give them their money back. No questions asked. We just want to remove every kind of hesitation out there. Just try it. If you try it, you'll like it. That's it.
Is that a price point usually cheaper than the VF still, though?
It is, yeah. There's a strategic gap there between because I mean, it's less materials. I mean, to create a VF tire, all the VF tires are still belted. The AgriStar 2s are not, they're polyester. There's a good bit of differences there in just the material it takes to create a VF tire. So the AgriStar 2 is below that. We want to keep a gap there because we do believe there's value in the VF tires. They are going to be more expensive, just is what it is. But for standard radials, the AgriStar 2 is priced very, very competitively.
Good strategy. So I noticed Alliance has a massive lineup of tires, and you've tried to have something for the whole farm. What's that expression you use again?
The whole farm concept?
The whole farm concept. Is that what it is? Yeah. How do you introduce so many new tires and still maintain quality?
It's a challenge. I mean, it's something we really pay attention to, because at the end of the day, we launch one new SKU every working day. When you look at what we do in a year, every day we launch a new SKU. Even within that, we have seen no issues with quality or no drop off in quality. Our factory still runs exactly like it did 10 years ago when we had a much smaller product offer. And I keep going back to the factory because, like I mentioned earlier, I've been to a lot of ag tire factories around the world. We have 3 factories in India where all these tires are produced. I've been to the factory where the AgriStar 2 is coming out, and every single tire is inspected by a person at the end of the line. Not like some of our competitors where they'll do 1 tire out of a batch or 1 of every 7 tires or something like that. Every single tire is inspected front and back, up and down. And the process is much more automated now than it ever used to be. So, I mean, realistically, raw materials come in one side of the factory, and until that tire is inspected, it's not touched. Like it's a robotic process all the way from start to finish. So it really helps out with quality. So we really haven't seen any concession on quality, even though we try to be lightning fast to the market.
Yeah, okay. So how do you engineer the tire or design it to withstand the condition you're going to put it into? Do you go out and test it on that equipment before you introduce it to the market, or how does your testing work on that side?
We do. It depends a lot on what the application is. I mean, obviously there's a lot more risk in introducing something like a 1250 5032 on a grain cart, like a 2,000 bushel grain cart, than there would be like a 15538 that's going to go on an antique tractor, right? I mean, there's a whole different scale there. We do have, just as of last year, we brought in a field engineering team. They're called the Global Field Services Group, and that's what they do. So they're tasked with monitoring tires and surveying tires all across the country. Now, they use the help of the product managers, they use the help of the sales guys to figure out where we want to put these tires based on what torture test we want to put it through. And they watch, then they'll take the tires back, cut them up, send reports to India, do whatever they need to do. But yeah, it's pretty rigorous. Like I said, we don't go through a full 2, 3, 4 year testing period for every tire. We just can't, and we really don't need to. But for ones where there's a concern, like we're going on a high-speed vehicle or there's a ton of load or it's a new concept, we definitely put them out there and watch and just see what happens and really put them through a torture test.
Thanks for that. It's helpful. All right, since we're talking about innovation, tire innovation, I really like that story about the AgriStar too. So how about we just try to create our own ideal tire in 60 seconds?
Okay.
Try to engineer it. All right, so just try to think about you're obviously an expert in this space, so just try to think about a gap that exists in the market right now.
Okay.
And then think of an application we're designing it for. So I know this is kind of putting you on the spot here, but what would you envision for a tire to suit that market, like the size of it, and what's the tread pattern? Is it going to be standard or VF?
Yep.
Try to design the perfect tire right now.
I think the market needs, if I had to create one from scratch, just in my sandbox, I think the market needs a high volume tire for sprayers, but not a traditional chevron pattern at all, because that machine is not doing what a tractor does, right? So why does it need a tire that looks like a tractor tire? It doesn't. So I would do something, it wouldn't even be the 363, it'd be something more open than the 363, more void, still have a broken center rib there to give you the support you need. Probably at least in a 750 watt or an 800, and maybe even 900 for our friends up north.
So within the higher speed rating, probably.
It would be E. It would need to be E-speed rated for 44 miles an hour, absolutely, no question.
So when you say a different tread design, I mean, you're still going to need pretty good traction in the field, probably for a wet.
Sorta, but even like our 373, something like that would probably do it. Because I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm thinking about with sprayers is anything is good. Like there are so many opportunities to do better than a chevron bar, than a long bar. That's just not the right tread pattern.
Because of how much roading they do, essentially.
It's not the right tread pattern.
All right, well, what are we going to call it?
Oh, I don't know. AgriStar 3. And it would definitely be VF. It would be VF for sure. And it would probably, I would love to see it with some type of CTIS functionality as well. Because CTIS is something that you guys do really well, and I applaud you for it, because it's just, it's slowly taking hold here, but it's gonna take a long time. Some type of CTIS functionality where if you are running CTIS, I think there should be a unique load table or something, because every tire has a buffer built into it, because we know that nobody's checking their air pressure like they should. And just with the way that the load tables work, you cannot run a tire at the right pressure ever if you don't have CTIS. So if you do have the ability to maintain that pressure exactly where it needs to be at all times, there should be some kind of bonus. I think using CTIS and VF, we can get to a level of compaction that we're not touching now. I mean, we're talking about pure flotation.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think CTIS is, there's a lot of people that are really believe in it, and marrying that up with the tire that's designed for it, I think is going to be powerful.
Yep, it needs it. Because CTIS, even with the standard radial tire, makes a world of difference. But CTIS with a VF tire with an additional benefit, game changer.
Yep. All right, James, thanks a lot for being a sport. And it sounds like we got a lot of shared beliefs. I learned a lot. Your theory behind the AgriStar 2 I thought was a good one. And the fact that you've got double the lineup of VF tires of your nearest competitor is fascinating. I guess really we would just like to take this opportunity to encourage anybody watching this to think about your farming operation and how can you get the right tire system on all your equipment. There's tires being designed for each application. Do you have the right setup? Give us a call at NTS Tire. We can help walk you through how we can get the right setup and help drive your farm forward.